All right, let's talk about 2025. What a year for AI, right? It felt like new models were dropping almost constantly. But now that the dust is starting to settle, a handful of them really stand out. And not just because they were powerful, but because of the stories they tell about where all of this is going. So let's get into it. The most impactful AI models of the year.
So what even makes an AI model impactful? I mean, it's definitely not just about who's at the top of some leaderboard. It's about the conversations they start, the industries they shake up, the new things they suddenly make possible. And yeah, sometimes it's about the drama they cause. The real story is never just a number. Okay, so before we even kick off the official countdown, we have to talk about a few major players who didn't make the top 5. Their stories are super important, though, because they give us the context for everything else that happened this year. And we're going to start with a giant that kind of seemed to lose its way.
For years, Meta was the name in open source AI. They were the undisputed champs. But 2025, it was a rough one for them. The big Llama 4 release kind of fell flat, especially when these super efficient models from China started appearing. All of a sudden, Meta was playing catch-up, leading to big internal shakeups and a battle to keep their top talent.
And you better believe the community noticed. This comment from the local Llama subreddit just perfectly captures what everyone was thinking. It's like people weren't even mad, just confused. Meta has all the money, all the computers, all the brain power in the world. So the lackluster results just didn't make sense. It made everyone wonder, what's really going on over there?
Another fascinating one is Grok. You know, its models this year were fine, they were perfectly competent, but they didn't have that one killer feature. That one thing you just had to use Grok for. But here's the thing. With that monster Colossus supercomputer they have and new models always on the way, it feels less like a question of if Grok becomes a top dog and more like a question of when. But maybe the wildest sideline story of the year came from a model that was released back in 2024. When OpenAI rolled out its new stuff, it casually mentioned it was retiring GPT-4o, and they had absolutely no idea what was about to hit them. They really didn't count on how much people loved that model.
This quote basically says it all. It wasn't just a few complaints, it was a full-on user rebellion. People were genuinely upset, like they'd lost a useful, quirky friend. The backlash was so fast and so intense, OpenAI actually had to reverse their decision. It was a landmark moment, the first time we really saw that an AI's personality could be just as valuable as its performance.
All right, so with all that drama as the backdrop, let's finally get into the official countdown. And coming in at number 5, well, it's really a story of two different models that perfectly captured a huge shift in thinking this year. So, first, OpenAI launched GPT-5, and the reaction was not good. People found it boring, slow, and just uninspired. This quote comparing it to a tired HR employee just nails it. It really fueled this whole narrative that maybe we'd hit a wall, that the big leaps in AI were over.
But then, just when everyone was getting pessimistic, Google dropped Gemini 3, and the vibe was the complete opposite. You had people like Salesforce CEO Mark Benioff saying the leap was insane. In one fell swoop, Gemini 3 just completely shattered that progress is stalling narrative and put all the momentum right back in Google's court.
Now, our number 4 spot isn't just one model, it's a whole movement. It was the year that the open source world was completely rocked by the arrival of these incredibly powerful, incredibly efficient models from China, names like DeepSeek, Kimi, and Qwen, that just came out of nowhere.
And when you look at the data, the shift is just staggering. At the beginning of 2025, if you were a developer in the US using open source models, you were basically using Meta or Mistral, period. By the end of the year, these Chinese models went from 0 to being a dominant force. It completely redrew the map.
For our number 3 pick, I think we need to talk about a different kind of metric. Let's call it an unlock score. This isn't about raw power. It's about how many brand new, actually useful things a model lets you do, things you just couldn't do before.
And that is exactly why Google's Nano Banana Pro is number 3. It wasn't just another image generator. As Ethan Mollick points out here, its uncanny ability to create high-quality, complex infographics and slides on demand was a total game changer. It unlocked a killer app for millions of people in business and creative fields. Nobody saw the PowerPoint killer coming, and they definitely didn't think it would be called Nano Banana.
Okay, here we go. The top of the list. These next two weren't just impactful. They were developments that fundamentally changed the entire AI landscape in 2025.
Coming in at number 2, we have OpenAI's reasoning models, O1 and O3. These weren't just another language model. They were built from the ground up for strategy, for planning, for actual logical problem solving. And the result? Just look at this chart. A whole new category of AI went from basically zero to making out more than half of all AI usage. That is a paradigm shift.
And that brings us to number 1. The single most impactful AI development of 2025 belongs to Anthropic. Why? Because their suite of models powered the year's biggest, most undeniable breakout use case, AI that can actually code.
You see, while other labs were distracted by shiny objects, Anthropic was laser-focused on coding, and the release of Opus 4.5 was a watershed moment. As Dan Schipper put it was the first time we had a model that could just go. It could code and code without getting stuck in those frustrating error loops.
The praise from the developer community was just off the charts. Amir Salih-Effendich, who founded Doist, said it was the first time an AI felt like it could write better code than most human developers on real, actual work. That's the key. We crossed some kind of critical threshold here.
And this quote from an engineer really brings it all home. This isn't just a better tool anymore. It's fundamentally changing the job of programming. You're not just writing lines of code. You're directing and sanity checking an AI partner that's doing the heavy lifting. That intangible threshold? Yeah, we've definitely crossed it.
So, after all that, after a year of insane progress, crazy drama, and huge shifts, what's the one big takeaway from 2025? What's the lesson here?
I think it's this. 2025 was the year AI stopped just talking and started building. The real breakthrough wasn't just conversational AI getting a little bit better. It was seeing AI become truly agentic, capable of solving problems, executing tasks, and creating its own tools to get the job done. And coding was just a beginning. And that leaves us with this huge, kind of mind-bending question. For all of human history, we've been the tool builders. But now AI can build its own tools. The threshold we just crossed isn't just about faster code. It's about the nature of creation itself. So, if AI is building the tools, what do we build next?